Hello and welcome to Martyn Lucas Investor. My name is Sensei and you are here for the morning forecast show. Happy Halloween, everyone. It is the 31st of October. It's the last trading day of the month. We can expect some volatility going into that monthly close on the candle. But we had a good day yesterday. Amazon earnings was incredible. I hope you joined Vaz for that last night. It's up 12.5% pre-market. Every single person who's ever bought Amazon is in profit right now because we are at $250, the highest we've ever been on Amazon. Congratulations to all Amazon holders. This will help keep the market elevated. Remember, we are basically priced in for perfection, so we needed companies to outperform on earnings, but of course they've outperformed on earnings and their stock price has gone up, so we are still very much overbought on the market, but that doesn't mean we can't continue to go higher. That's always been what I've said. We are in that euphoric period. I expect to continue to go higher, actually, before that crash does come. When is that crash going to come? Is it going to be next week? Is it going to be next year? We don't know, but all we can do is prepare for all scenarios and navigate the market together. And at certain points, we'll have a better idea of what's going to happen. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please do make sure you have hit the like button. Make sure you have subscribed as well. This is a live broadcast on a Friday, Halloween. Every single morning we go live. Martyn says congratulations to Big Ed. I think Big Ed was a big investor in Amazon when it was in the tens of dollars rather than the hundreds of dollars we are now, maybe even earlier. But this is looking very, very good. So congratulations to all Amazon investors and anyone who's still managed to stay in the market and didn't get scared. So let's see what we can expect. Remember, I do still think we are overvalued. I do still think a correction will come, but I'm still in the market. Why? Well, because I think that euphoric period is still going to come with us. We will just move over to Bloomberg for 1 second because they are discussing this big rally.
Good morning and happy Halloween. So look, I mean, the markets, I don't think the markets are experiencing the turbulence for a lot of the things that you were just discussing, is that the big leaders, the narrowness of this rally that we've had, which is a large cap tech, are printing really strong numbers. Now, those might be just a handful of stocks. When we look at the rest of the stocks in the S&P 500, there are some cracks, and it is reflecting some of the weakness in the broader economy. I know we haven't gotten any of the data yet, but we understand that things aren't necessarily accelerating. What we have to recognize is that the market is not the economy, and the economy is not the market. So when you think more broadly about the S&P 500, say the S&P 493, X the Mag 7, what you're really looking at is a broader picture also of the economy. So therefore, if the economy is moderating at some point, then you're likely to see those broader equities also somewhat moderate. But the dominance of those Mag 7 is so strong, and the earnings and the numbers that they're printing are so monstrously strong, it's carrying the rest of the markets. So that's why we're not really seeing the turbulence. It really just depends where you look. If you look in other broader sectors of the markets, you might see some of that turbulence. And that's really where we think some of the opportunity is going into 2026.
Can you build on that? Where do you think we're going to see some sort of rebound, given the fact that some people are speculating
Morgan Stanley analyst, and then we'll come back to the show.
Pain, given the fact that prices are expected to continue to rise, albeit not necessarily at the levels that we saw in 2021 and 2022. And there is this feeling that this weakness in the lower income sphere is just continuing to build.
Yeah, so we have to look at the full picture here, right? So one of these things goes back to the tax package that, one big beautiful bill that got passed, and effectively starting to think about the consumer and what stimulus package they're going to get next year in the form of bigger tax deductions. That number in terms of what the consumer, what taxpayers are going to pay less is somewhere on the order of $160, $170 billion. So that's money that's going to be in the pocket of the consumer as as we know, consumption 70% of GDP. That can keep consumption relatively robust, even though the labor market picture, which is weak right now, it's currently weak right now, might start to improve as we move into 2026. Most economists' forecasts into 2026 is that we will have better economic growth versus 2025. So if you have a growing economy, likely in 2026, and you have enough slack in the labor market at this point to keep wages
Stay
at a
with us. We're going to talk about XRP in a second.
Margins and the earnings margins for many of these companies can stay somewhat afloat. So we have to recognize that whether it's accelerated depreciation, all of the various things that came out of the tax package, this is going to be a tailwind as we move into 2026.
And Jim, I know you, and it's the old adage of
well, that's very interesting. I think he's basically saying there's going to be that stimulus package. Obviously, it's not like the COVID stimulus package, but because of this tax cuts, the big beautiful bill, that's going to inject a lot more money into the market. So we'll see. Are we going to continue this rally? Well, I'm still in. I hope the rally continues. But if it crashes, I'm also prepared. But let's talk about something something that will excite a lot of people, which is this XRP ETF in 14 days. We'll come on to it. We'll make a video out of it. Let me turn Bloomberg off for now. But yes, if you have just tuned in, please do make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Let's go and check out all the earnings from yesterday, all the news from our very own newsletter that was released this morning. If you haven't got the newsletter yet, it's the first link in the description. It's also in the live chat. So we had three big earnings yesterday. We had Apple first. So Apple beat on revenue, but China weakness casts shadows over iPhone 16 cycle. Apple post a September quarter revenue record of 94.9 billion, narrowly beating Wall Street's consensus, marking a 6% year-over-year gain. So it did beat consensus. I do think Apple is up this morning as well. Let's have a look. Apple is up 2.2% this morning. It did hit new all-time highs as well. So the market did like Apple's earnings. Adjusted EPS hit $1.64, exceeding expectations after removing a $10.2 billion one-time tax charge tied to a lost EU case. Net income excluding the charge would have grown 12% to roughly 25 billion. iPhone revenue grew 5.5%, reversing two straight quarters of declines. The services sectors surged 12% to an all-time high of 25 billion, signaling continued strength in monetizing Apple's user base. Gross margin hit 46%, while operating cash flow came in at 27 billion. The company also declared a quarterly dividend of 0.25 per share. The only issue with all of this was China. So China remains a weak spot, with the sales staying flat year over year. CEO Tim Cook cited FX tailwinds and emphasized Apple's retained the top two smartphone spots in urban China. The quarter included only 9 days of iPhone 16 sales, which began on September 20th, marking a full cycle performance unclear. Management notes that Apple Intelligent adoption increased as well. Apple's strongest, with December quarter traditionally Apple's strongest, all eyes now turn on how well iPhone 16 and 17 Apple Intelligent resonate during the holidays. So Apple looks all good. Earnings were up. China doesn't seem to be a massive issue. That's what Tim Cook's saying. Although you do have to be concerned about that. I think they will be losing their number 2 spot in China in the urban areas as well. So, but with all of that said, Apple is at all-time highs. So better than expected. Market liked it. Market is staying bullish. The main story was all about Amazon. Q3 expectations. We'll come on to XRP in a second. So Apple crushes Q3 expectations. Amazon Web Services reignites growth at 2022 pace. Amazon delivered a decisive earnings beat on October the 30th, reporting Q3 net sales of $180 billion, up 13% year over year, and surpassing analyst consensus of $177 billion. The headline number truly grabbed attention. Was adjusted earnings per share of $1.95. crushing estimates of 1.57 by roughly 24%. That's a 24% surprise towards the upside, and that's why the markets are really rewarding Amazon with that over 10% surge pre-market. The e-commerce and cloud powerhouse demonstrated broad-based strength. North America revenue climbed 11% to 106 billion. International sales advanced 14%, and advertising services expanded 24%. CEO Andy Jassy emphasized that Amazon Web Services is expanding at a rate we haven't witnessed since 2022, marking a significant acceleration in what's become Amazon's crown jewel amid intensifying cloud competition. What made this report particularly compelling for growth investors was Amazon Web Services' 20% revenue growth to 33 billion, handily beating the expected 18.1% growth rate. Operating income hit 17 billion, through the figure was depressed by a 2.5 billion FTC legal settlement and a 1.8 billion severance costs. Adjusting for these charges, yields operating income would be 21.7 billion. The quarter showcases Amazon's pivot towards high margin business, with JC pointing to an AI improvements across operating, fueling the economy's the company's momentum. So it's really all about AI once again. Their investment in AI has paid off. They're going to continue to invest in AI. The Amazon Web Services, everyone is trying to move from all this data being stored in-house to being stored on the cloud. That's what Amazon Web Services is all about, and they are seeing that grow and grow and grow. Their AI makes their advertising more profitable as well, because of all that AI usage. They know how to better advertise, they know how to advertise cheaper, they know how to get more clicks. So that advertising business is growing at a rate which wasn't expected. The quarter showcased Amazon's pivot to high margin businesses. For Q4, Amazon guided to revenue between 206 billion to 213 billion, while operating income guidance of 21 to 26 billion, both sustainably ahead of Wall Street consensus. The market reaction was unambiguous. Amazon stock surged over 11% in after-hours trading. They also have their Whole Foods market as well, which was growing, I think, second or third largest growing in the US. So we also had Coinbase as well. That crushed expectations. I think Coinbase is up as well pre-market. Coinbase is up 5% pre-market. It was down the day before, and then after market it popped 5%. So Coinbase up as well. It delivered a standout third quarter, reporting net income of 432 million, up nearly 6x from 75 million in Q2 of 2024. What other facts do we have from there? They bought a lot of Bitcoin as well. Their company continued strengthening its balance sheet, acquiring 2,772 Bitcoin during Q3. Via weekly DCA purchases totaling $299 million, bringing its total Bitcoin holdings to 14,500. Subscription and services revenue rose 14% to 747 million, now accounting for 28% of their revenue. Well, so have USDC market cap and average balances hit all-time high of 74 billion and 15 billion respectively. CEO Brian Armstrong reaffirmed Coinbase's pivot towards everything exchange strategy, expanding beyond spot into derivatives, tokenized stocks, and prediction markets. So with that, three big earnings. MicroStrategy also reported it was up after hours as well. It said it's a pivot point for Bitcoin. It's an inflection point in the Bitcoin market. He said, we are at what we consider a turning point. Our ratio of net asset value has been declining over time as Bitcoin asset class evolves and volatility diminishes, he said on the earnings call. The comment underscores a tactical reality as Bitcoin becomes more institutionalized and price swings compress. The variance between MicroStrategy's stock price and its net asset value narrows, meaning preferred share valuations require support, and that's why that price is coming down. We do have the chart of the day on MicroStrategy in the newsletter. But now onto our main story, all about XRP. Let me just welcome everyone into the show, and we'll come on to that. Vaz was here first. Welcoming Vaz. If you have just tuned in, please hit that like button. Excuse me. Ricardo says, good morning, banana heads. I'll take third. Ricardo is here. Happy Halloween, trick or treat. There we go. MDL is here as well. Potato Family says, excuse me, for some reason I'm still recovering from whatever I got 2 weeks ago. Oh, XRP is right now. No, wait, it's tomorrow. Correction will be this week. Okay, it's going to happen this year. Excuse me. So Potato Family, we've never actually called for a specific date. We only ever looked at the facts. So if you look at any other YouTuber, they've been going on about random dates, fake dates. They've even started saying XRP ETF should have been released yesterday, today. I mean, these are big ones that some people in the chat think they're really credible YouTubers. They're wrong again. They said that there was an XRP ETF coming out yesterday. They said there was an XRP ETF coming out on Wednesday. They said there's an XRP ETF coming out today. Where is it? I mean, how many times do they have to be wrong for you to start listening, for you to stop listening to them? We've never been wrong about any of our data-driven predictions when it comes to facts. We once said about a year ago, literally about 245 days ago, we brought out a calendar suggesting that ETFs will be XRP ETFs and altcoin ETFs, and we gave you the exact dates, will be released this month in October. And that was going to be the case until the government shut down. The first day of the government shutdown, while other people, other YouTubers, other X accounts still came out with those exact deadlines I gave you about 240 days ago. They came out with them and they're still using them to this day. This is the deadline. This is the deadline. The first day of the government shutdown, I came out and said these deadlines don't matter anymore because the SEC are not at work. They're not going to be approving these deadlines. Yes, we've been tracking it for 200 days, but this US government shutdown means they are not appropriate. Let's change our tune. And we did. And we said, forget about those deadlines. Everyone continued with those deadlines. Those deadlines was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, this week. And none of them have come into action because if you look at the laws and how things work, they won't. And then, so I told you that. So I know what you mean. There's a lot of people out there that says XRP ETF tomorrow, this week, next week. But if you just listen to us, listen to the facts, listen to all our research, and listen to this channel, feel free to listen to other channels, but this channel, we don't try and make random videos to get views. We will go off the facts, and the facts now are that. And again, we told you about 20 day. We told you about the Solana ETF and how they managed to do it. Now the XRP ETF is continuing in its footsteps, and Canary Capital is looking at 14 days from now. So that's only, of course, if the SEC doesn't. The SEC can still come out and say you can't launch. They can do that if the government shutdown ends, or even if they think it's a big enough issue that it's a priority for the few people working at the SEC. They can still say no. But listen, guys, I mean, I don't want to name any names because I don't really care about other YouTubers, but a lot of XRP family, even here on this channel, you were citing two other YouTubers. Like you said, some people said they're not credible. Some of you, even members here, said that they are very credible. They told you there was going to be an XRP ETF on Wednesday. They told you there was going to be an XRP ETF yesterday. They told you there's going to be an XRP ETF tomorrow. They said there's going to be one this week. Where is it? It's not this week. I don't understand why they don't go with the facts. They just want to get views. The facts are, and it's brilliant, 14 days time, we are very likely to get an XRP ETF. I'll come on to all the news in a second. Ripple replaces the Fed. I wouldn't say that's ever going to happen. Hello all, happy Friday. Brian says XRP ETF going live on the 14th of November. Canary ETF, yes, hopefully. Brian says 4-year cycle is a thing of the past. We're moving into a 5-year. I wouldn't really focus on a 5-year, 4-year, 2-year cycle. I mean, it's not really a crypto thing. 4-year cycles, if you look at the back of the S&P 500 in 1980, 1984, there was a 4-year cycle there as well. So it's interesting to keep an eye on, but I wouldn't change it to a 5-year cycle, then change it to a 6-year cycle, then change it to a 2-year cycle. It's just look at we'll keep an eye on the markets and navigate through it. There's no evidence for a 5-year cycle. There is evidence for a 4-year cycle, however. We would have to see really good evidence to suggest why there could be a 5-year cycle. Not to say that 2026 can't be a good year. It's just there's no reason to start giving it names and calling it a 5-year cycle. Yolanda says, good morning, Sensei and everyone. Brian says, let's all hit the like button. Thank you very much, Brian. Yolanda is here. And thank you, Martin. He's given a prediction on X. We'll open that up. Expect of it. Oh, here's Martin's prediction on the day. A very green day. S&P 500 up 1.2%, down 1.2%. NASDAQ up 1.65%. This will be interesting. Let's see if this happens. This is Martin's prediction for the day. Let's see what happens today. Not on X, too much noise there. So no more talk of a crash, says Wadey to Martin. Crash is coming, we just don't know when. Yeah, Martin is still expecting it. Yeah. Yes, I'm still expecting that, but I've traded enough to compensate for it. Now back to an all-time high. Yeah, so essentially Martin, throughout that time, was trading, made enough money. So even if the market crashes, he's still up, or at least flat. And if it crashes even further, he'll have income to buy in the crash. So still expecting a crash. If you haven't managed to make money, if you've been on the sidelines, then Martin is still expecting a crash. Again, we never give financial advice. I'll come on to the XRP story in a second. Crash comes when Trump speaks, so now you don't need to sell or trade, just hold and buy low of future income, earnings and dividends. Well, that's what Martin can do because Martin traded. I'm sure many people didn't trade. Trump in chicken says, are you fully back in the S&P 500? Yeah. Oh, Martin's 100% in VU now, fully back in. Sensei, Halloween, Scream, Friday 13th for Thanksgiving. Don't know what you mean by that. Bought all those dips and sold the rallies many times. That's the trouble revved up Riker. Too many macros to predict any boom or crash. Yeah, at this moment in time, it's very difficult to predict. And it's scaring the markets to be bullish. Brian says, we'll just have to wait for the dips, but when we feel like it's right. Exactly. Coiled Spring, ladies and gentlemen, I think you're talking about XRP, will be January blues. Bit like XRP. David Hensley, thank you very much. Welcome into the show. Sean June says, good morning, Sensei. Do you buy mostly based on Fib 618 levels? Thank you. No. I buy on many different factors together. Mainly, I like to buy good companies and crypto at good value. But I use many different ways to determine what a good value is. Where were we? The November pump will be biblical, says okay. Okay. I mean, lots of people said that about October. Martin says Coca-Cola defensive is looking great again. Coca-Cola, this was one of the big tips from Martin, where he bought it at $65, $65, and then again, from a technical perspective, we said even as a short-term trade, it looks great with leverage as well. 6%, 7%. My target was $70, and we hit that target. Hey, Uber is going 3x, we think. Uber 3x? I wouldn't say so. Why would we say Uber 3x? Wow, Uber's at all-time highs. No, I wouldn't say Uber is going to do a 3x. Hey everyone, thanks for the email, Sensei and Debbie. Sensei and Debbie. No worries, human being. Thank you for being subscribed to the newsletter. Smash that like button if you're inkling that Jerome Powell cross-dressers at night. And yes, cross-dressers are welcomed here. Thank you, David Hensley. When's the deadline for the Ripple bank license? I don't think there is an open deadline for that. Happy Halloween. We have got a chance to buy XRP on a dip again. XRP is up 3.4% today. Holy cow, yes. Happy Halloween, everybody. Top man, Sensei. Thank you, Brian. The market moves on feelings. Where were we? 20. Good day, Sensei from North Korea. Eli, I'm in Gaza. I don't think that's... Just checking that. Great beach there, Stu. Morning, guys. Eli, great surfing. Got to watch. Good. I don't quite like what's going on in the chat right now. I don't like any jokes being made about humanitarian crises, so I'm just going to put this user on a timeout because I don't believe they're in Gaza, and I don't believe anyone would be surfing in Gaza right now because of the situation there. So we will be putting that person on a timeout. Waiting patiently for the XRP news. Let me just check. We'll be moving away from that as well. Thank you, Eli. You retracted your own comment there. You knew what was coming. Okay, so what happens with the crash? A week ago, it was 100% around the corner. Now we're bullish again. I never said it's Chris Boshoff. I never said a crash is 100% around the corner. I've always said in this specific time, I'm 50-50, and that's why I'm invested. A week ago, I did not say that. So please, Chris Boff, I've never said a week ago that there was going to be 100% a crash. I didn't say that. I still think at some point we will have a correction. I think that'll be in the future. Martyn still believes there'll be a correction. He's just made enough money to be back in the S&P 500 and not worry about that. And he will buy the dip if needed with future income, potentially margin. I don't know, but no one. I've not said a week ago that there's 100% a crash. I said I'm prepared for a crash. Not you, Martyn. Chris Boshoff, please find me a. If you find me a if you find me a video that I said 100% crash is right round the corner, is imminent, I'm 100% confident that a crash is coming right round the corner before we get a rally to the upside, because remember, I've always called for a rally to the upside. If you can find me a video like that, I will get you whatever you want. Anything from the merchandise store. I've never said that there's going to be, I never said 100% there's going to be a crash. I've always said there's going to be a rally and then potentially a crash. At some point, we are overvalued. I do expect a correction. But I've never said right around the corner next week we're 100% going to get a crash. And that's not been in anything I've said. Okay, let's come on to the main story then. Let's go on to the XRP story. Excuse me, I'm still recovering from whatever I had. Deep dive XRP spot ETF. Let's make it into a video. Breaking news on Martyn Lucas Investor. XRP ETF is now coming. 14 days to go for a potential XRP ETF. I'm going to explain why that's a 14-day countdown now. I'm going to explain how this is happening during a shutdown with the government. I'm going to explain the risks to this because it's not 100% confirmed yet. But if you are an XRP investor, you would want to listen to this video. Remember, so much fake news out there. People calling for XRP ETFs yesterday, the day before, today. People that even in this channel that we try and build the most honest, most real YouTube channel in the world. There's even people in our live chat that says these YouTubers, they're real. They tell us the truth. They don't. They've lied to you over and over and over again, and they were wrong once again with their ETF predictions. We have been spot on with our predictions when it comes to the fundamentals and data. 200 days ago, I came out and told you when these ETFs will come out because we had the 245 deadline from the SEC. I had the whole table. About 50 days ago, everyone else started copying my table and understanding when those deadlines were. The first day of the shutdown, I came out and I told you these ETFs, these deadlines for all these XRP, Solana, ignore them because they no longer apply during a US shutdown, especially if we're still in the US shutdown because there's no one working at the SEC practically. Those deadlines don't matter. All those other YouTubers, all those other X accounts would still continue to give those deadlines and say the XRP ETF's coming out, this date, this date. All those dates have passed, they haven't come out. We were right again. Then we came out and we told you about this new way of filing ETFs during a shutdown, which basically bypasses an SEC formal approval. And that's, in my opinion, the only way these can get approved. There's other YouTubers telling you right now that there should have been an XRP ETF yesterday. Just please, subscribe to this channel. We don't give you the fake news. We research. I spend hours a day putting together these newsletters every morning. So we do our research. Press that like button, and let's go into the real information you're probably not going to get anywhere else. Someone said, I'm not going to name any YouTubers' names because I don't want to. They said XRP will be 1,500 to 2,000 by year end. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Just please stop listening to these people. XRP will be lucky, I promise you. This might seem like I'm a bearish XRP holder here, but we will be super lucky to get $10 by the end of year. And by super lucky, I mean, we have been for a lot. We have been holding a while. We have been bullish throughout the SEC case. So XRP is undervalued, but it would still be an amazing return. If we get XRP to $10 by the end of the year, that would be an amazing return because we started at 30 cents last year. Ending at $10 will be great. So do not take for granted a $5 XRP, a $10 XRP, even where we are right now, $2.50. We're about 30 cents a year ago. So don't take it for granted. Don't start thinking $1,000 XRP is likely. My next targets and really bullish targets would be $50 to $100 next cycle, maybe in 4 or 5 years. And those are my top predictions. If you go to a stock market investor and tell them about those gains, if you go to a financial advisor and tell them about those gains, they won't believe you, and they'll think that's the best investment in the world if you can get that. So please don't take for granted a $10 XRP because everyone is telling you about a $1,000 XRP. Again, I'm super bullish on XRP, but I am realistic. Let's come on to today's video, all about XRP, spot ETF countdown, 14 days to a potential breakthrough. Here is the SEC, fast asleep. Well, of course, they're not fast asleep. They are just government shutdown. They're not getting paid. They're not at work. We've got a date, the 13th of November. Put it in your diaries. That is the date we could get the first XRP ETF from Canary Capital. The 20-day countdown is a go. There is Litecoin already there, HBAR there, Solana there. Can XRP be the next there? In my opinion, it should have been before them, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. The race for the first US spot XRP ETF is now formally underway, and the finish line can arrive less than 2 weeks. Canary Funds has filed an updated S1 registration for its XRP ETF, deliberately removing the delaying amendment, a clause that would normally prevent a fund from automatically becoming effective without SEC approval. Remember, we covered this in the newsletter last week about all the rules, what the registration was, how they have to change it. So basically, what's happened is, with the shutdown came a new rule that the way that you would start filing these ETFs has moved away from the last rule, and it's now on the S1 registration rule. So even before the US shutdown, we came out and told you that the way of filing before is a thing of the past. The SEC is moving to a quicker and faster way of doing it. However, then the SEC went into a shutdown. So we told you this even before the US shutdown. Now that I'm remembering it, it was before the US shutdown. We told you about that rule change where it went from a specific way of filing, which gave you the 245-day deadline, to the S1 way of filing, which just meant that the SEC should be able to approve it quicker. And that's how everyone applied. The S1 registration, and then you wouldn't have a specific deadline. The SEC would just approve it. Then we went into a shutdown. Then there was a rule change because in their Q&A section of the shutdown, the SEC actually put in a specific wording, and I think I can bring this up in a previous newsletter. They put in specific wording. So let me go into our newsletters. Again, if you have the newsletter, you can always go back and check other ones. So yeah, here we go. This was in this newsletter from a couple weeks ago. Here, there was a Q&A. Q&A number 11 in the SEC's shutdown Q&A section, where it said, now that a shutdown is effective, can I file an amendment to my current registration statement to remove the delaying amendment so my registration statement will be effective in 20 days? So the question was, there's always a delaying amendment, and there was, for these ETFs, that the SEC would actually have to come and approve them But the question someone asked was, can I remove them now because the SEC is not there? And then the SEC said, if the company removes the delaying amendment, they will need to add the new rule 473B, and essentially that means it will come live in 20 days unless the SEC says something. So these will automatically get approved as long as the SEC doesn't disprove it. So that's the new way of filing. And that's how the Solana ETF did it. That's how the HBAR ETF and how the Litecoin ETF did it. So that's what the XRP Canary ETF has now done. So Canary Funds has filed an updated S1 registration. So they had their initial one with the bad wording, or with the wording that they should have used at that time. They've changed the word to remove that delaying amendment, because if you go back into that newsletter, you can see the question was, if I remove the delaying amendment, and they've removed the delaying amendment, a clause that normally prevents the fund from automatically becoming effective without explicit SEC approval. Now, by invoking Section 8A of the Securities Act of 1933, Canary triggered a statutory 20-day countdown. That countdown becomes effective as soon as they refile with the new wording. The only way they can't get approved is if the SEC goes out of their way within that 20-day window to say no. The ETF now becomes legally effective by default, potentially unlocking trading as soon as November the 13th, 2025. We will be tracking this date closely. I don't think anyone else has done it. Again, it takes a while to go through all these filings and understand if they have or not. It looks like it's just Canary, and it looks like this is the first one. I might be wrong. There might be one earlier, one later, but right now this does look like the first one who's done this a few days ago, and it does look like November the 13th would be the first XRP ETF. And this is exactly what Solana, Litecoin, and HBAR Spot ETFs did. And they're leveraging regulatory mechanics during a period of government staff inactivity and potentially paving the way for XRP to join their ranks on public exchanges. So that essentially, this is the SEC's asleep, not at work, and people are sneaking through ETFs. So it's quite interesting. And it's great to have that countdown because we know exactly when that's coming out, and we can base our predictions off it. We can base buy the rumor, sell the news, all of that sort of stuff. So we'll continue to track this, but this is the initial first bit of news I'm bringing to you. We'll keep you updated on this. The closer we get, the more news we get. So make sure you have hit that like button and subscribe. I'm going to tell you some more important things now, but to stay updated with it all, we'll be covering the launch and everything on this channel. So subscribe and hit that like button. Under standard ETF registration procedures, issuers including a delaying amendment in their Form S1 filings. This clause explicitly prevents the registration statement from going effective until the SEC declares it so. So that's the way that they normally filed it. Remember, there was a filing way for 200 days. Then that ended. The SEC said, file it with the S1, and then we'll approve it very quickly. Then the SEC shutdown happened. And then it was and then they said, keep the S1 filings, but change the wording so it automatically gets approved unless we say something. This is the normal route used for most IPOs and ETF launches, ensuring the SEC staff has time to conduct a full review. However, under Rule 473, under the Securities Act, provides an alternative. If an issuer removes the delaying amendment and replaces it with specific language, invoking Section 8A, the S1 registration statement becomes effective automatically 20 days after filing, unless the SEC takes action to stop it. So they have to go out their way to stop it. So you can see, this was the Solana one. They had all of this wording up here. They changed it on October the 7th. It triggered the 20 days, and they changed the wording up there as highlighted. So yeah, earlier in October, both Bitwise and Canary Funds utilized the same mechanics to bring several spot ETFs to market: BSOL, Litecoin, LTCC, Hedera, HBR. Each issuer amended its S1, removed the delaying language, and invoked Section 8A. On schedule, after 20 days, those ETFs became legally effective, allowing trading to begin rapid 8A exchanges approval. So it's worked, it's proven, it should work again with XRP. The 14-day countdown for XRP. So this is where the news broke from Eleanor Terrett, a very credible reporter in crypto. She says Canary Funds has updated its S1 for XRP Spot ETF, removing the delaying amendment. This stops registration from that stops registration from going auto effective unless the SEC gives the okay, so they've removed that wording. The SEC doesn't need to give it okay. The only thing they can do is give it the no. This sets Canary's XRP ETF for a launch date of November the 13th, assuming the Nasdaq green light the 8A filing. I apologize, I'm struggling to breathe because I'm for some reason still quite unwell from a couple of weeks ago. Here is the note. The government reopening could affect the timing, potentially moving up if the filing is completed and the SEC is satisfied, or back if the staff propose additional comments. So we are continuing with the shutdown. However, if the shutdown ends, it does throw a spanner in the mix. If the shutdown ends before that specific date, 13th of November, then the SEC can approve it automatically there and then, or they can decide to wait and ask for additional comments. So it might be better, it might be worse. Ideally, I don't know, the shutdown continues and then we get the XRP ETF. Either way, we can't predict if the shutdown will end or not. It doesn't look like it's ending soon, but there will be quite a lot of pain if it doesn't end in the next couple of weeks. So if it does end, what do I think? I think they'll probably comment about something, and then we'll probably have the ETF more likely by the end of the month. But if the shutdown doesn't end, I expect it to go live on the 14th. However, it's worth noting that the SEC chair himself seems to be on board with companies taking advantage of the auto-effective method. This auto-effective method is this 20-day countdown that automatically goes live. Because while not commentating directly on the ETF launches, because this was mainly meant for IPOs and securities, but because ETFs are securities, people have applied to these ETFs. He hasn't commented on the ETF launches, but he did say yesterday he was pleased to see companies like MapLight using the 20-day statutory waiting period to go public during the shutdown, praising the same legal mechanics Bitwise and Canary used to launch their Sol, HBAR, and Litecoin ETF this week. So it doesn't seem like the SEC chair is unhappy about crypto companies using this. Canary XRP ETF now sits precisely on this timeline. We'll go on to the XRP chart as well at the end because it is pumping a little bit today. On October the 24th, prospect for the Canary XRP fund date was updated, and then it changed all its dates. So on October 24th, it changed its filings. The 20-day countdown starts. What else happens? November 13th is when we expect it to go live, unless the SEC stop it, which will probably, the only way the SEC will stop it is most likely if the shutdown ends and then they want to comment on it. And then even in that scenario, I think we'll be live by the end of November anyway. The final gate is Nasdaq's approval of the fund's 8A listing. Once received, shares can begin trading within days. This makes November the 13th a genuine inflection point for the XRP ETF launch. You can see here, this is the Canary XRP ETF. What's it called? Their filing. You can see now it has changed hereafter, has become effective with the provisions of Section 8A. So they've changed their wording there. And this was on the 24th of October. So that's when the 20-day countdown starts. The Canary XRP ETF is structured as a trust, issuing shares that track the CoinDesk XRP USD CCIX reference rate, an industry standard for XRP price index. It's Canary Capital. The trustees are CSC Delaware Trust Company. The administrator is a US bank. The custodians are Gemini Trust Company and BitGo. The structure mirrors Canary's existing Litecoin and Hedera products, offering daily NAV, net asset value calculations. This is Eric, who is a ETF expert from Bloomberg. He did reply something a little bit bearish. I didn't like it. He said, interesting. Although XRP docs didn't have the same comments back and forth with the SEC that Solana had, that's one of the reasons issuers were felt that they were ready. But hey, worth a try, I guess. He's saying that with the Solana ETF, the issuers were talking to the SEC back and forth, and they were very confident. And he says that's why the issuers said went ahead and put that 20-day countdown in. But then he says, well, it's worth a try. Yeah, so he called the maneuver worth a try, noting that the XRP fund hasn't gone through the same back and forth review with the SEC as Solana did, adding some procedural risk if staff returns with comments. Still, analysts view that the legal pathway as robust and well precedented. The key market question isn't about XRP's fundamentals, but whether the SEC's silence will persist, and what that implies for the future of altcoin ETFs. Many investors see this as the strongest indication yet that regulated mainstream XRP vehicle is within reach. If Canary ETFs proceeds as planned, it will become the first regulated direct spot XRP product in the US markets, making it a profound shift from after years of conflict between the SEC and Ripple Labs. Implications include institutional access to XRP without direct custody risk, new liquidity and tighter spreads from ETF arbitrage, legitimacy boost for non-Bitcoin and non-crypto ETFs, migration of capital towards regulated structures. Critically, this will be significant. This would signify regulatory compliance by default, not formal SEC approval, a subtle but material change in the market's legal landscape. So, what could go wrong? There is still risks. The SEC staff could reopen the review before November the 13th, pausing the 20-day clock. The NASDAQ must finalize the 8A listing approval. Authorized participants need sufficient XRP liquidity to create or redeem shares. Lawmakers could question ETF auto-approval path post-launch. Still, current filings suggest Canary is confident in testing the boundaries of regulatory procedure. The Canary XRP ETF could become the first major crypto fund to reach US markets through regulatory silence, not action. If no SEC intervention occurs by November the 13th, listing can proceed immediately, potentially marking a major market moment. XRP long and center of enforcement battles, debuting in an ETF vehicle just weeks after Solana, Litecoin, and Hedera surprise entries. So do mark your calendars. 13th of November does seem fairly likely, as long as the SEC does stay quiet, doesn't want to comment, and that shutdown continues. Even if the shutdown ends, as long as the SEC doesn't really make it hard for this issuer, it should be going live by then. Worst case scenario, in my opinion, there will be an XRP ETF by November. But the facts we have in front of us, which is always what you should go off, not like other YouTubers, the facts ahead right now looks like 13th of November is when we'll get our XRP ETF. But there is a few things you need to keep in mind. Let's have a quick look at the chart as well. 1 second, let's go back to our chart of XRP. Remember, we saw the other ETFs go launch. There was a 10, 15, 20%, or maybe the Solana went up 1%, Litecoin went up a few percent, HBAR went up 10%. So I'm not expecting a massive pump, unlike what other YouTubers will say on the launch day. The only way I would expect a massive pump on a launch day, because on an ETF, is if you're in a really euphoric period. If you have Bitcoin on all-time highs, XRP just broke all-time highs, everyone's waiting for any news to buy in, and then an XRP ETF suddenly launches or suddenly goes live, everyone will take that news as a reason to buy, and that because of the sentiment you'll pump. But just because of the ETF, at a time like this when we're sort of in a downtrend for XRP over the last few months, I don't expect it to have a 50, 40, 30% pump on the day. I'm still very bullish about it, because when we come to that high sentiment area, when we come into a peak of a bull market or the euphoric area, or even people buying up XRP in a bear market, it just allows them to buy it in a different way. It allows them to buy it in tax efficient ways. It allows them to buy it in pensions. It allows them to buy it, stock investors to be exposed to it. So it makes it easier for people to buy. So at any period, it's actually good. It's a great step forward. But the only way I expect it to pump on the day is if, or a big pump on the day, is if we are at a euphoric phase. So I do expect the ETF launch could be what propels XRP to new all-time highs over time, as long as the euphoria continues in the markets and we still continue to get good earnings. And then my targets have always stayed the same for this bull market, which is $4.40, $4.70, $5.30, $6.37, $7.41, $8.50, and then I've got my moon bag at $11, $13, $33, which I don't think is very likely of happening. The higher we go, the less likely. But all of these targets, I'm fairly confident on, but I'll be taking profits at each of these levels. And this ETF could help get us get to those levels with more money flowing in to XRP. Let me have a quick look at your comments. This is made during a live show, so I just want to answer some of your comments, because if you're watching this as a video, you might have the same comments as some people in the live chat right now. Make sure you have hit the like button. Make sure you have subscribed, because we'll be covering it all live at the time as well. So revved up bike, and that is not a confirmed headline, but we expect it to launch then. Eli says, how do they keep track of XRP, the price of XRP, the better Bitcoin? I don't know what you mean by that. I'm not going to name any YouTubers. Someone says, is the guy who says XRP is 750 by the end of this year? I wouldn't just stop listening to anyone who says that. There's no reason XRP can't be at those prices. ETH did grow fast to 4 digits. There's a big reason why XRP can't be at $1,000, because Ethereum has a much lower supply. You can't just look at Ethereum's price and say XRP can get there. Fed rate cut in December, 50% chance. Yeah, at this point there is, I think. Solana went to 3 digits very fast. What's going on? Eli, ET, it's all about market cap. It's not about... Solana has a lower supply than XRP. XRP is at $2.50 because there's 100 billion tokens. Solana's at a much higher price because there's many less tokens than that. Ethereum's at 3,800 because there's less than a billion or whatever. The amount of Ethereum is much less than XRP. That's the only reason it's higher. Okay, if you think that person is clever because they're suggesting a $750 XRP and they've lied to you throughout this whole bull market and they've called for ridiculous prices every other day, then you're probably going to lose in this market. Eli, sure it's possible by the end of this volatile year, so reaching too far. End of next year, very possible. What, $1,000 by end of next year is not possible. He has access to rooms and people's in the know. We've got access to Bank of America. That is what you want access to, not just rats. I don't understand. There's still people defending someone that says XRP is going to hit $1,000 by the end of the year, or $650. Someone that said the XRP ETF will be launching this week. Someone that said XRP will be at $1,000 last year. When will people learn? He has access to people in the know and still makes those crazy predictions. Yeah. It just shows you who are those people. I'm sure he does. He knows nothing, or maybe he does and he says it anyway. All he has to do is convince people he knows. He doesn't know. He doesn't have to be right. He has to be a clickbaiter. Yeah, they're all clickbait. We want to give you the real news. And if I use clickbait, like probably when this video goes out, I'm probably going to say XRP ETF on the verge of launch, or XRP ETF in 14 days time. That's as far as I'll go, and it's pretty accurate. Yes, in the video I'm going to tell you the risks of that and why that could not happen. But the main point of the video is me saying XRP ETF in 14 days. I'm not going to come out and say $1,000 XRP, or this ETF is going to launch it to $50 next week, or this ETF is 100% confirmed. I mean, there's a fine line between having a thumbnail and a title to get people to click and delivering on it, and just having a thumbnail and a title and then just pure fake news within it. I should wrap up this video, but I'm going to listen to this. Yeah, if his predictions if his predictions are correct, which they haven't been already, but let's say XRP goes to $750 by the end of the year. Obviously, at first, they'll be very, very happy. That's why people watch these videos, because they get very excited, because they see that they've got 100 XRP, and if it's $1,000, then they'll be millionaires and they'll never have to work again. That's not the attitude you should go in with. But anyway, if that does happen, firstly, I'll be very happy. And secondly, I'll do a formal apology video to all those YouTubers. I took a screenshot of that exchange between $14 will do for me. Yeah, it'll be amazing if we get $14. It's still very unlikely. Sensei, there is no market cap relevance. There is. I know what you mean over time, but right now it's not being used for all cross-border payments around the world. So that's not the way you don't just throw away market cap for now. XRP at $27 is my end target, but I'm ready for lower targets. If we get 27 this cycle, I do see $150 in 5 years. If we hit $10, then my 5-year target will be much less, like $50. Yeah, revved up biker. I like it. But very bullish, but very doable as well. And you've said if we only hit $10 this cycle, then your next target will be $50. So that's in line with me. If we hit $10, I'm still I think $50 to $100 next cycle. If we hit $27 this cycle, then then yes, maybe we get $150 next cycle. I'm spot on. Please hit the like button and give out free memberships. You're making some valid points. I stand corrected, sir. No worries, Mike. Okay, so thank you everyone for tuning into this video. We're going to continue with the live stream. We're live every single trading day. We're going to have the newsletter here, so go check all the real facts. You get it daily into your inbox. You don't need to listen to people that give you fake news. 2 videos up here as well. But until next time, I apologize for I'm not feeling very well, so that's why I keep pausing when I'm reading. But until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye-bye. Now come out as its own video. Give me one. Okay, so that will come out later. What's everyone's reaction? Just for the record, I have no XRP, but I love the greatest digital asset ever created. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, up or down, who knows? Sensei, dressing up for Halloween. No, I'm not dressing up for Halloween. I think we're all good. I think that's the end of the show. If anyone has any final questions, let me know now. Great earnings yesterday. I hope the euphoric cycle continues. I hope we go into 2026 with higher lows and higher highs. Get that final euphoric period, and then at some point, I do think we'll go into a recession. I do think we'll have either a recession or a bear market, where I think there'll be opportunity to buy back in. The ideal situation will be we go to those levels. I personally take some profits. I don't know what I don't give financial advice. Maybe 50, 70, 80% of my profits are taken. We go back down to levels. So we go up to $5 to $10 to $12. Then we come back down to $2, $1. I buy more, and then we're ready for next cycle, just like we did last time. Hope you feel better, buddy. I feel fairly fine, JJ. It's just, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but thank you very much. Trick or treat. Well, I don't know what the right answer is. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in. It is Friday. There'll be a monthly candle close. So by the time we come to a closing bell, it'll probably be pretty volatile for the stock market, not the crypto market. The crypto market will be volatile at 12 at midnight UTC. But yeah, it's going to be a volatile Friday close because it's that monthly candle close. Good luck to everyone. Remember, the stock market, the crypto market isn't a money-making machine. You need to go out there, make some money, invest it wisely. 80% of it should be in indexes you don't touch. 20% of it should be, if you like to be trading, that's when you can experiment and buy your crypto, buy your individual stocks. But most people will end up better just buying stocks or buying indexes such as the S&P 500 with a few bonds, with some gold, and just leaving it on the side and just watching it grow over the long term. So always remember that. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe everyone. Thank you. Just reading all the comments. Okay, thank you very much. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.